The COVID pandemic made us feel even less in control of our lives. And everyone wants control. We want control over our own lives and other people's lives and society and civilization in general. And we are given ideologies and conspiracy theories or whatever to nurture the illusion we are exercising control and might even gain more control. But this game is thoroughly rigged. Whether you consider yourself a normie, a conspiracy buff, a leftie, a right-winger, or a libertarian, your desire for control does not matter to the superpowers. You have no control, and you are currently not changing anything about that with what you're doing. Whether you believe COVID is a hoax does not change anything about the upcoming trade war or the taxes, the Russians, or our puny little liberties. If you hail Trump as your savior or some other Republican or Democrat, doesn't change anything. Normies think being a normie means control. To the conspiracy buff, spreading conspiracy theories is an attempt to gain and assert control. They consider each other as a hindrance to gain more control. If you reject certain ideas of a conspiracy buff, he will feel a sense of losing control and get angry or just withdraw. His rejection of the system feels like a threat to the sense of control of the normie. So if two gay people, if a gay couple is walking around in public holding hands, that gives the right-winger a sense of threat to his feeling of control. He fears gayness will engulf society and destroy order. To the gays, right-wingers seem a threat to the feeling of control. If you let right-wingers dictate the rules, gay people lose most, if not all, of the control over their lives. Now, leftists have been programmed to think that spending other people's money means control when it really means the opposite. If you don't hail Karl Marx and the leftist dogma, you are seen as a threat to control. If an actual socialist state runs out of other people's money, it tries to assert control through violence and terror and surveillance. The blame is laid on wreckers, saboteurs, traitors in the outside world. COVID made us all lose even more sense of control. And people are furious now and they try to reassert control. They use certain ways and means in the attempt to gain more control. So the leftists, they do what they always do. The conspiracy buffs, they do what they always do. The normies, they say if we all act like normies, everything will be fine. But it's not that simple. So maybe the wrong bat sneezed on the wrong bat, or some lab accident happened, or some smaller state actor or non-state actor had found the virus and spread it intentionally. Maybe that's what's behind this pandemic. Maybe. And now we all have to suffer because of that. And we all, as citizens, lose control because of that. So, the mainstream now attacks China and declares that the lockdowns could have been prevented if the Chinese had provided honest information to the WHO early on. For weeks, Western governments insisted that COVID was not a serious danger. In Europe, COVID is portrayed by the left as a right-wing capitalist conspiracy. On the web, people act like it's all just a hoax. And if we can get enough people to believe it's a hoax, the lockdowns will end and we will get control back. So people literally watch conspiracy videos to get the equivalent of a drug fix, the feeling of control and the promise of more control. So who needs facts and logic when those things make you feel less certain and less in control? It's the same reason normies watch normie programs promoting norminess against everything unnormie. Same with the left, same with everybody else. You know, you can't protest the pandemic away. You know, there might be another virus in a few months or next year. And so now you had US President Trump. He said he would mobilize the military to distribute a potential coronavirus vaccine. Lots of equipment is being bought, and there's this project Warp Speed where you see the state and industry working together to create and distribute this vaccine. And Kushner is on board. So that announcement, sounding like Trump is a war president, he's going to war against COVID and he's commanding the troops or something like that. Those kind of statements make some people in the audience feel more in control. That might give some people the feeling of control. You know, Trump is on top of this. He's dealing with it. He's using the military. He's gonna lead a war against this virus. Some people are comforted by this. Others are not comforted by this. So the left, of course, is pretty paranoid, and also conspiracy buffs, conspiracy-minded people. They're also very angry about these statements, and they're starting to lose their patience. I mean, for real, lose their patience with Trump. I mean, think of all the stuff, you know, the terrible red flag gun laws and the raising of the debt and all that. And now it's maybe mandatory vaccines. So, lots of anger and screaming. Then came the denial. No, there's not going to be a mandatory COVID vaccine. But then Alan Dershowitz opened his mouth. Harvard Law School Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz. Trump confidant accused by an alleged Epstein victim. Claimed in an interview that the government has the constitutional right under the 10th Amendment to forcibly vaccinate its citizen to stem the spread of an infectious disease. Quote, "Let me make it very clear, you have no constitutional right to endanger the public and spread the disease, even if you disagree. You have no right not to be vaccinated. You have no right not to wear a mask. You have no right to open your shop. And if you refuse to be vaccinated, the state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and stick a needle in your arm." Well, not so fast, Mr. Dershowitz. If you have a virus with, let's say, a 5% kill rate or above, then of course the government can pretty much do anything it wants. If the kill rate is 1% or lower, things are far more complicated, and that's what we're seeing right now. There's a new study out. It estimates the lethality at about 1%. You know, it's all just guesswork, but you know that's kind of always the case with the pandemic. And so if it's just 1% or less than 1%, it's still a serious threat, but you can't just forcibly vaccinate everybody you want, and you can't just keep the whole country on lockdown because you can't afford that anyways. So it's going to be what's called smart distancing, the new semi-normal, and COVID, of course, made pre-existing problems worse, financial problems, political problems. So people have no real control. It's called a democracy, it's called a republic, but it really isn't. It's one upper class that's been around for hundreds of years, and this upper class, they own government and they own the major corporations, and then they own politics, and so the people have absolutely no control. And the people are given these ideologies or, you know, regular conspiracy theories to make people feel they have control, to make people feel they're doing something, to make people feel they might even actually gain more control. It's one of the reasons why the establishment wanted Trump in the White House. That's why you saw some similar types of voting fraud benefiting Trump, the same techniques we saw benefiting George W. Bush in 2000 and 2004. The establishment or part of the establishment, they wanted Trump in the White House to neutralize the truthers and the militant patriots, to give them the illusion that they have control. And so this is how the game works, right? You're given a fantasy. You're being given a fantasy. You're being given the illusion that you're part of some revolutionary group that's going to change things. You have to look through the system first. You have to understand how it works. Only then can you reverse engineer it and start engineering techniques that actually work, techniques that actually give you more control. So this pandemic is going to continue. It might just be a slow death burner, and this might take years, and it might kill 1.7 million Americans over the course of maybe 3 to 5 years. Could be a slow cooker. It could be it might be a monster wave in the fall, or you might see mid-sized waves in a couple of them. Nobody can really tell you that. And even if it's just a slow cooker, there might be another virus that's also a slow cooker, and this problem might actually go on. And none of this Republican versus Democrat thing is going to solve anything. It's not going to give people more control. You have to understand how these empires are run. You have to understand that these three superpowers, they have common roots, and they've helped each other out, and they balanced each other out. And you have to be scientific, because the ruling class is very scientific about their own rulership. So we have to be scientific. And I'm working on a study, a very large study, to figure out what actually works and what doesn't. Because most of these resistance techniques or activism techniques, they're pretty much, they're almost useless, or worse than useless. You know, they teach you these things so you stay busy, and you waste your time, and you waste your energy, and people, of course, fight against each other. We'll keep you updated on this. Pandemic, and what the superpowers are doing. So we see a huge trade war coming. This might actually become a military proxy war in Asia. And while everybody's looking at Asia, the Russians might start attacking in Eastern Europe. And then, of course, you'd have another Cold War. And the superpowers, they can, of course, scare everybody on Earth. And so these superpowers will carry on maybe indefinitely. So you have to understand how this really works. And none of these alternative media sites really is giving us an accurate picture. I mean, alternative media has failed so bad and failed so hard. They can't really explain the Russian Empire. They can't explain the Trump scam. They can't explain so many things. And now we have, of course, this pandemic, and the truthers can't really explain the pandemic. They just go in full oppositional mode, and they declare it all to be fake and a hoax. But they can't explain who supposedly managed to pull off a fake pandemic globally, including Russia and China. And why would anybody attempt a fake pandemic when it's so easy to do a real one? So we'll keep you posted. Please like this video and comment down below.